what does artist development look like today versus what it looked like, let's say 10 or 15 years ago? But let's more drill down on like the artist development of today for how you guys do it, because you guys do it at a very high clip and a very successful rate. And it's incredible. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
I mean, look, have been doing this longer than a lot of people. I don't think the artist development
I was going to say what year, but then I decided not to.
Yeah, don't age yourself.
We'll cut it up.
Just because he looks very young.
He looks like
he looks great.
I found out how old he was the other day, and I was
go down to see the birth
I was
certificate.
like, oh shit! I thought my man was out my age. I was like, all right, no, go ahead.
We're gonna keep this all in.
Okay.
No, but I think the artist development part actually has not changed, and when I say that, I mean like, you know, whether it's 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 5 years ago, or last week, it all starts with preparing the artist for the career that they're about and the journey that they're about to go on, and that starts with songs, performance, voice, movement lessons, how press and PR lessons, like how you move on stage. Do you have a good live show? What can you, like, to me, it is like going top to bottom and being like, where are your strengths, where your weaknesses, where your weaknesses are, let's make you stronger. Where you're already strong, let's hone in and make it even better. And, you know, we compare a lot of what we do to like sports, like being an athlete, right? You go in there and you train, so when you get out on the field, you're ready to play, and you're not even thinking, because you've already prepped. You've sat in the coach's room, they know the plans, you've done the training, you've done the practice, you've done the preseason. So when you actually go to play the game, you just gotta go play the game, and you're confident because you know you're ready. For us, developing new artists, it's the same thing. What do we do to get them ready so when they go on stage and they go out into the world and they do press and they perform and they meet their fans and they do social media, they're not even thinking about it because they know they're good at it. They already know they're prepared and they can handle it all. So that part hasn't changed. Now, has it changed in like, you know, is social media wasn't a thing before and now it is? Sure, but press and PR was there before, and you would still get bad articles and you'd still have radio talk shit about you, and you still have to deal with it. It's just more enhanced now.
Yeah.
And it's obviously on your phone, it's right in front of you. But the idea of taking a young artist that Bailey, that's never done this before, and sitting there and going, how do we prepare you best so you can succeed and do your job that you want to do? That's artist management. And I just think people either don't have the time, or they don't have the money, or they don't have the staff, or they don't have the resources. So it just kind of gets pushed aside, and it's easier to just like put out a song and an artist and see if it works. We don't do that.
And I think also, I love the sports, because I was just reading the Tom Brady speech, or watching the Tom Brady speech, because he always talks about like, people always talk about the Super Bowls and all that stuff, but they never talk about like the dog days of summer, or that like training camp where like you're just like on your 7th, 10th day and like you don't want to be there. It's like not the game. And we talk about that. We really talk about that with all our artists. Is like the little things that you think don't matter, the radio interview, the little thing that you hate to do, that's the meet and greets, all those little things, I promise you, they add up and help you have a career. And that you're not just here for a minute and then you can talk to people one day, oh, I was in the industry for a few years. But if you want to be a career artist, it's the little things that you do that separate you from the pack. And the thing is, for us, look, everyone's kind of looking for the same stuff, and you know, the joie de vie of an artist, like the juice, right?
Yeah, the juice.
The juice, right? But I think people nowadays, because of social and DSPs and all that, they're too busy looking at algorithms and numbers. And the difference for us, honestly, and I say this, and maybe there's other people doing it too, we don't care as much. If there's someone with crazy numbers, and we don't like the music, or they don't come into our office and feel like they got something, the numbers are irrelevant for us. I'd rather someone come in with a crazy voice, a crazy dream, all this stuff with no social numbers at all. We'd rather sign that person.
You can work with that.
So we can do something there.
Yeah.
But someone with all the numbers, but like, I don't know, feels like they've already hit it before they've actually gotten anything done. Because you know the world we live in, followers and engagement, people lead with that.
Yeah, instant gratification. And we saw it over the pandemic, how many artists were being signed based off of one record, and where are they today, right? We've seen a lot of that.
I mean, 99% of them are gone.
Gone. Yeah.
Gone.
So I mean, to your point, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Is there a specific cadence? I do love the sports analogy as well
Right.
too, and the Tom Brady, because a lot of this and the artist development part is what happens, what people don't see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So much of it is what happens, right? So then when you have the performer go on stage and they perform and they crush it as if they've been, it's a local venue of 150, but it doesn't matter. It could be an arena.
Yeah.
So true.
Because they're so prepared, right? The only thing that changes is maybe the butterflies.
Exactly.
In that situation. But were you gonna say something?
No, just saying sometimes it's like the people who come to the show and they see a great performance and it's like amazing. And then sometimes for us, like instead of like we go back after the performance and it's sometimes just like a sigh of relief. It's not like it's like how did we got it? We
Yeah.
got it done. I don't know how we did it. There was
Yeah.
this obstacle and that obstacle, but we somehow the artist and just did what they're born to do.
Yeah.
But there were so many things to get that artist on stage
It's a lot.
to avoid or whatever it was to get them there. And then the final product is all that matters to the crowd.
Yeah.
And that's the best part.
Yeah.
Like but it ain't easy.
No,
know.
it's not easy.
You've done it.
It's not easy at all. Man. You going up, when you don't have the resources and the money. That's actually something that's super interesting. I want to ask you guys about that. I mean, I remember my experience when not having any money and resources, being in a parking lot. I can't rent a rehearsal studio, so we're in a parking lot. There's a light there. It's 2 a.m. Water bottle. Let's rehearse. Music from the car stereo.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. We do that for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But today's day and age, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the relationships, as a manager, as an artist, how do you start?
I mean, look, nowadays it whether people like it or not, and they like to hear it, it's social.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest because you actually don't need resources, right? You can, if you have a phone, you have a camera, you can record yourself, you can do your own TikToks, you can do your own reels, you can do all of that. That is your platform to get your voice and your songs, and that is how most people are now getting discovered. So in some ways, that's better because you can do it, right? You need very little resources to get going. Now, I know artists get frustrated because they're like, well, great, me and hundreds of millions of other people are doing the same thing. That's where it's like, you got to hope your songs and your voice and, what you're writing and what you're saying cut through the noise.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know it is a little bit like winning the lottery sometimes. Like, there is no one way to do it, because if there was, people, they would all do the same thing.
All the time.
So it is a crapshoot.
It's even a crapshoot for artists that are more established. We have it with our own artists where one day everything is working on TikTok. The algorithm is just feeding you their stuff and it's working. And then all of a sudden, maybe a new song or something, whatever, it just ain't working.
Right.
And you're like, why? And we're not like, everyone always asks, like, how are you? Like, there's not like one like cookie cutter way for each artist. It's all very different. We're not like, oh, you're not doing X, Y, and Z. We're almost like, your guess is as good as mine. Like, I don't know why it's not working. There's stuff that is out of our control and out of the artist's control. But I like to think that the best part of social media is usually like the real talented, like the real talent,
They cut through.
they cut through.
Yeah.
If you have, and you're persistent, it would be hard for me to think that like, if Billie Eilish or Olivia were unknowns today, that they couldn't break through. Because I think they will.
I agree.
Even Stapleton, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'd like to think that either talented songwriters, talented singers, like, I'd like to think that if they were persistent and they figure out what their fans or their, the people, their followers want.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that the cream rises to the top.
Yeah. And you got to be dedicated to it. I mean, even if you didn't have social media, you still got to be dedicated to this, right? So let's say 10 or 15 years ago, right? I mean, I don't have TikTok, I don't have Instagram, but I have to show up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not showing up, then the people who have invested in me are not going to want to invest further in me, right? The songwriters, the producers, the label, the management. It's like, listen, if I can't get you out of bed, then what are we doing, right? So same thing today as well. Now, to your point, you have the resources, right? You got to show up.
Gotta show up.
And now I think it's a double-edged sword, because yes, hundreds of millions of artists now in the world who think that they can make it in some kind of breakthrough with one thing that kind of goes crazy, right? And then you have other artists who never break through. But I mean, at the same time, 10, 15 years ago, you still had hundreds of millions of artists, but you just only had a couple that were actually getting signed.
Yeah, and it was still a little bit luck of the draw, right? Like you had to do that
Still luck
one
of the draw.
showcase where the one A&R person from the one record label showed up and was like, I think you're good enough that I'm going to bring you to my label and we're going to sign you. Like, think about the odds of that.